Welcome CSC 235 to our Unit 5 discussion challenge, I guess. I put that in there in case you didn't want to talk about the loops at all, but you just wanted to do the challenge. And in the Eloquent JavaScript reading, if you went through that, at the end, they have a little challenge here, and they're like, make a, I call it a tree, but it's a triangle loop of pound signs. I don't think I could even extend this, but there's 1 and then there's 7 at the end. So it increases each time. So obviously that's a loop that's kind of printing those out. So it's a simple little exercise, but I just wanted to go over it just so you understand how the loops work. And when you're starting from scratch, just how to think through it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just make a new repel. And this is what you could do if you're working on it. And again, just HTML, CSS, JS. You could just call it 235 and you could call it discussion 5. You could call it tree loop or triangle loop, something like that. Triangle pound signs, whatever you want, and then just put your initials. And again, when you're doing something like this with the console log, you don't have to really make any HTML. You could even leave hello world there, just as long as you have this script. You want to make sure you have this. You could get rid of hello world. And this stuff down here, I always try to get rid of this stuff. The script at the bottom with the built with replit. So you could leave hello world there, at least there's something there. And you can do it right here. It's only going to show up in our console. So that means we could go in our script here. In fact, I don't even know if you need this because we're just showing this in the console. But anyway, if we're pointing them out, we're gonna make a loop. So let's just make a loop. For and parentheses and put I equals. Now remember that triangle started with 1, so you could just put 1. So you don't have to start at 0, and then a semicolon. I is less than 7. It's trying to put in stuff here. And I'll put a semicolon. And then I'll do the I++, which means it's going to increment, I++. Okay, so that's the start of our loop. So that's kind of the parameters of our loop here. So I'm going to finish this off with a semicolon and put this down here. So everything's going to loop inside of here. Now, one thing, since we're putting pound signs, that's kind of a character. So that's a string character. We're probably better off making a variable of a string character in case we need to add to it. It's easier to add to it being a variable instead of just adding to a string character. So I'm just going to put let x, I'll just use x, equals or is assigned to, and then the string of the pound sign. And I'll put a semicolon. So it's going to be writing this many times. And then all you have to do in here, and I missed my opening brace for some reason. Make sure you have your opening, closing curly brace. Then in here, you should be able to just do console log. And then what are you going to print out? Well, you're not going to do I, because I will just give you numbers. If you just put I in here, it'll just give you numbers. And it's doing less than 7, so it's going up to 6. So let's say less than equal to. So that's just doing numbers. We don't want numbers. What do we want? We want X. So let's do that. Then you get something like that where it's basically just kind of rerunning that loop 7 times. So it's not printing it each time when you do that. So what we want to do here is kind of add to itself as it goes. Now the first thing you might think is, okay, after it goes once, let's add to itself. So let's just do x plus or equals. Now you could do x equals x plus x. You might think to do that. That's adding it to itself. And it's also the same as doing this, x plus or equals x. And that should just increment to itself. But let's see what happens here. And you get something like that with all these numbers. And I just want to point out what's happening here. Well, it's starting with 1, and then it's going 2, and then it's going 4, and then it's going 8. It's almost going like binary. It's doubling each time. And we don't want it to double. We want it to increment by 1. Now we have increment by 1, but what's happening here? Well, if you think about it, it's going through here the first time, and it's saying, okay, log x, and it's putting that. It's putting a pound sign. Then it's saying x added to itself. And then it's going to go through and print that out. And it's putting pound sign, pound sign. And then it's saying take x and add it to itself again. So that what it's doing this time now, because x got basically reassigned of added to itself, it's now saying pound sign is going to be added to pound sign, and then it's going 4. And it's going to keep doing that. So it's doubling itself by doing this because it's adding to its new value. So it's creating a new value, then it's adding to that. So it's adding to its value, then it's adding again. So that's why it's doubling up. So for this one, instead of doing this, what you actually have to do is not add itself to it, but just add another pound sign to it. So if you go in here and just add another pound sign to it, it'll take itself and it will increment itself, but it'll just be adding one pound sign each time. So now if you run it through, it should be doing the first time it's going through, it's putting 1. Then it's going through and it's saying, okay, add a pound sign to it. Then it's going through and it's running 2. And then it's going, okay, this time add another pound sign to it. So 2 and 1 is 3. So it's always adding 1 here. If you use X here, it's doubling up. It's whatever itself was. So if itself was 2, then this will be 2, and it'll make it 4. And if this is 4, then this will be 4, it'll be 8. But in this case, it's always adding 1. So I just wanted to point that out as far as making this little tree here. You could turn this in or put it in your discussion or whatever, but I just want to point that out. Now, there's other ways to do this. This isn't the only way to do it. This is the first way I thought of doing it. You may have another way of doing it, or there may be a simpler way, but I just wanted to point that out, that just be careful that you're not doubling up these numbers, that you're actually just adding this to it each time.